Why, hello there. Welcome to this video. My name is Leah. I'm a new progressive YouTuber, and I have recently started doing Wednesday, Saturday shows where I talk about politics, big stories, cultural trends. Also, I can use my political energy for good. Today's show is going to be a little bit different than normal because there really isn't a lot of big news stories or anything like in particular that I want to cover. So instead, I wanted to spend today talking about something that I've been thinking about a lot, and it's the fact that this could very well be the end of the Trump era. Now, I know a lot of people thought when Trump lost the 2020 election, we would be able to move on and that would be the end of the Trump era. But unfortunately, the Trump era has sort of continued on past its expiration date, if you will, because, he obviously lost the 2020 election. But due to him like denying the 2020 election and all the false fraud claims and all that other stuff, Trump has sort of extended his power. That way he could stay at the top of the Republican Party through this election cycle as well and have another crack at it. But this is Trump's third attempt at running for the presidency, and it's been almost 10 years of him sort of being on top of the Republican Party. And I think it's safe to say that he's actually running out of steam. Now, I do have some sources here to kind of help make the point, but I'm going to be providing, examples or reasonings that I think help make the point that this is sort of the end for the Trump era. Trump is cooked. Like, this is the end for him. Now, with that being said, of course, Trump could still win this coming election, and that is still a possibility. And at that point, his public life would continue forward for at least another 4 years. And if that were to happen, I'm not going to lie, I think the current Republican Party would sort of cement itself in the current position that it's in, sort of like the current configuration would sort of just become what it is. And we would probably see Trump, after his next term, put someone forward who would be his replacement, essentially. But it's looking less and less likely by the day that that is going to occur. I'm actually quite confident that there is a good possibility that Kamala will win over Trump, and it's more of a off chance that Trump might win. Of course, the election is still close. I'm not going to try to make it sound grandiose or like Kamala is certainly going to win. It's still close, but I'm seeing polling that is at the level of like Kamala being 5 or 6 points ahead. And at that point, you would see her win in a majority of cases. Now, things could still change. And, Trump is still within striking distance. He could close that gap. All sorts of things could happen. But I don't think that anything is going to happen. And there are a number of reasons for that. But the first thing that I want to do in starting off this discussion is I want to show you a comparison between 2016 Trump and 2024 Trump. So let's go ahead and look at two campaign rallies, both held in Ohio, 8 years apart. Okay, so first up here is a rally from Toledo, Ohio, and it is from 2016, so October 27th, 2016. This was really close to the election. I think, what does it say, 12 days away from the election? Yeah, 12 days away from the election. So let's go ahead and listen to this.
Wow, what a nice group. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What a nice group. That's a big group. We're having some awfully big groups. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Some big crowds. He's very concerned about crowd sizes.
12 days, we are going to win Ohio, and we are going to win back the White House. Believe me. A brand new poll just came out. Remington Research has us up 4 points in Ohio. Early voting is underway, so make sure you get out and vote, right? This is amazing. No matter where we go, we have these massive crowds. We just left one that was 11,000. It's been amazing, the receptivity. There's never been anything like this in this country, but you have to get out and vote because otherwise, all wasted. We're going to win. We're going to win big. I think we're going to win a lot bigger than people even understand. You know what I mean. A lot bigger. We're tired of stupidity and we're tired of incompetence, and we're going to run it properly, and that's what we want. We want to...
So I will say I, unfortunately, due to following politics, have seen my fair share of Trump rallies. And I have not seen these Women for Trump signs in a really long time, actually. I haven't seen them at the rallies in a really long time. And if you know about part of the reason why Trump won in 2016 was because there was a large coalition of like suburban women who voted for Trump. And I feel like that coalition, where are they at? I don't know if they're really still around for Trump. Over the course of time, if you look at like, he's obsessed with crowd sizes. Well, if you look at his crowd sizes over time, they've shrunk. They've gotten smaller considerably. And if anything, it's become really insular. So like his rallies have kind of consistent amounts of people, but it's like the same people. It's just the same people coming back over and over and over and over. Whereas in this early Trump era thing that we're watching right here, this rally probably had a lot of people who had never been to a Trump rally. Like this was their first Trump rally. Like, so there was a lot of new, authentic excitement that just simply does not exist anymore.
We want to make America great again, folks. Very simple. 75% of the American people think our country is on the wrong track. Who are the other 25, just out of curiosity? Who are the 25%? We're going to fix it, and we're going to get our country back on the right track. Real change begins with immediately repealing and replacing Obamacare.
So I will say, there's a very strong energy that he's always had, this charisma or whatever, that's kind of like been why he's been able to lead the top of the Republican Party for so long. And you can see like he's sort of at, I don't want to say the height of his charisma, but here he is being pretty charismatic, and he's talking about the workers, he's talking about the people, he's talking about something stupid, which is repealing the Affordable Care Act, but still he's focused on something that he's going to do in the White House for people, right? That's something, right? Let's go ahead and jump ahead here now to 2024 Trump in Dayton, Ohio.
Numbers are crazy. What the hell is going on? Something's going on here, because they've never seen numbers like this. You know what it is? They see how bad these people are that are destroying our country. That's what it is. And that's, in my opinion, what it really is. And we clinched a thing called the Republican nomination for President of the United States. And to all Republicans, independents, and disillusioned Democrats, of which there are many, I invite you to join.
First of all, he looks decrepit. He looks tired. He's like covering himself up with, a huge suit and a big hat so that you can't really see how tired and gross he looks. But he's tired and gross looking. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Also, like, he's being covered by some really crappy feeds here. Like the media is not putting barely any effort or resources into covering this guy anymore, because I just don't think they really care. And then finally, I just want you to focus on like, his energy levels, how he sounds, and what he focuses on in his speech.
In our movement to save our country, we're going to save our country. This is the greatest movement in the history of our country. And, I was saying the other day that in 2016, one of the biggest issues was the border. And I sort of won on the border, I guess, maybe. And we fixed the border. We fixed it so good that I couldn't even use it in 2020, even though we got millions and millions more votes in 2020. But we couldn't even talk about it. I'd say, I want to talk about the border. Tell them what a good job. They said, sir, you fixed it. Nobody cares. That border was a tiny fraction of what this border is. This is the worst border in the history of the world. There's never been anything. Millions and millions of people are pouring into our country, probably 15 or 16 million people. That's almost larger than any state we have in the union. And they're coming in from places you don't want to know about. So we're going to fix it again. But boy, what a mess. What these people have done to our country, it's almost hard to believe, frankly. The fastest way to reverse every single Biden disaster is to very simply just put me back in office. We'll get it done quick. We'll get it done very quickly. And we want to have a rock-solid majority in the Senate. We want to take over the House. We have incredible people here with us today, some great leaders, and leaders that have been warriors for me. And that's why we want to follow up our historic victory this week. That was a great victory, the biggest and the fastest ever. It's never been one that quick. We moved very quickly. We got very tough in the end, didn't we? We had no choice. We wanted to get a little tough to get it over with, and we got it over with. But it's the fastest ever, and that means we have the longest wait ever. 7 months is a long time, a little more than 7 months. It's like an eternity when you have people that are incompetent running your country into the ground. But if we could, we're going to take that victory and we're going to add to it with Bernie Moreno, who's a fantastic guy. Bernie is a fantastic guy. He's getting some very tough Democrat fake treatment right now. And we're not going to stand for it because I know this man. We all know this man.
So that was incredibly rambly and definitely not the same kind of energy that he was bringing in the past. It's just a very stark difference from 2016 to now. And I could show you a clip where it's a little less comparable, but like he did those press conferences where he was extremely low energy and rambly. And if you look at 2016 Trump versus him at those press conferences, the situation is incredibly clear. He is out of it. Like he is just done. I don't know if he's just emotionally over it. Maybe he feels like he beat Joe Biden and now he's, being unfairly pitted against a new person and he just doesn't want to do it. He's just over it. He feels like maybe he already won or something, which is silly, of course, but I don't know. It's just like there's something really different about him. And of course, a lot of it probably has to do with his age. But more than that, a lot of it, I think, is just the fact that he's been stuck in this like grievance politics cycle for an eternity. If you listen to like 2016 Trump rallies, they do have a lot more focus on things other than his grievance politics. But if you listen to his current rallies or his current speeches, pretty much all of it is grievance politics. He has like his greatest hits of like being the victim and having all this persecution and it's a political rich trial and all this stuff. So like this rally in Ohio in 2024 is an hour and 26 minutes. And we didn't even start at the beginning of it because the video starts like after he begins speaking versus this one right here, which is 40 minutes. That means over the past 8 years, he has added 50 minutes, if not more, to his speech. And all of it is grievance politics. All of it is woe is me. All of it is, I've been wronged. And I do think that there's an electorate that appeals to. Like, I think that he has a voter base that, hears this kind of like victim complex stuff and they feel personally victimized, even though the attacks have not been against them. It's been against their dear leader. But all of that is to kind of make the point that I think he's lost like the popular appeal. Like, I think that genuinely he has not picked up new voters in an incredibly long time. If you look at the numbers, I've mentioned this before, the amount of people that are undecided on Trump specifically are incredibly low. Most people have made up their mind how they feel about this guy. And so all this woe is me, all of this stuff, it's just insulating. It's insular. It's like we're having this effect where it's like you have people constantly leaving the Trump wing of the party, but you don't have people flooding in like they were in 2016. And you can compare this with Kamala Harris and her campaign. I'm pretty sure it was my last show. We talked about the voter registration numbers that we're seeing since Kamala has taken over the ticket. It's crazy. I mean, people are excited. There's a real excitement around her campaign. And we're seeing people register and like in numbers that we are not used to seeing. Now, the next piece of evidence that I have for you that like he's cooked and this is the end of the Trump era and stuff is quite simply just what he's doing, which is not a lot of anything. We kind of checked in with the Trump campaign recently on my show and he had only really done like a couple press conferences and a few things. And he has a couple rallies coming up, but he's just been sending JD Vance out there to like do his bidding and try to like stem the bleeding, essentially kind of try to stop his campaign from dying. And this is very not typical Trump. Like, we know him as the kind of person who just keeps going. I mean, for the past 8 years, he sort of seemed like this juggernaut, this unstoppable force where like he was always holding rallies. He was always out there doing something, building support, talking to people, stuff like that. I mean, I want to show you this. I counted so that you don't have to. But on Wikipedia, there are 2 lists of rallies that Donald Trump has held. One list from the 2016 presidential campaign and another list from post 2016, because Trump continued campaigning, continued his rallies while he was in office, and he even continued his rallies after he lost the 2020 election. So we're not going to go through this in great detail, but I'm just going to scroll down the list here. I mean, you can see that the numbers keep going up. They keep going up. I mean, these are all individual rallies that we're scrolling past. Scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And here, let me speed up a little bit so we can actually get through it. Okay, so that was 2016. Here's the list of post 2016. And as you can see, it is equally long. These are all, again, individual rallies that he has held. So that is a lot, is very many. Now, of course, those are the rallies that we know about, the ones that we have documented and stuff like that. I tried to find the exact number of rallies that he has held over the course of his entire political life, and the number is unknown. It is simply unknown. We don't know. There might be rallies that weren't really covered by the media. There might be rallies that were kind of too small, not to be, they just weren't listed. There are all sorts of reasons why we might not know the number exactly. But that's kind of actually unprecedented. Like, that's really bizarre. Like, normally with most campaigns, you know, the exact number of rallies that you've held or anything like that. But yeah, like I said, I did the math. I counted it up on Wikipedia, what is listed there. It's 563 rallies. Now, give or take, give me a margin of error of 1 or 2 there because I might have miscounted very slightly. But it's like 560 rallies over the past 8 years. That's a lot. That is a lot. That means that he held an average of 70 rallies a year. And that totals up at being an average of like 6-ish rallies per month. And you have to understand that this was consistent. This was constant. I remember, getting engaged with politics and seeing all these rallies constantly. And it's like, you think that this guy has an indomitable spirit. Like, it seemed like he was unstoppable. It seemed like this was just never going to end. But here we are, and he's not campaigning. He's not really doing much of anything. As I mentioned, he's been sending JD Vance out to try to save the campaign. And let's look at this. This is from Saturday, August 17th. JD Vance is now the least popular VP candidate in modern history, even below Sarah Palin. So polling averages show JD Vance has -9 net popularity rating, worse than Sarah Palin's low in 2008. So this is using polling data averages collated by 538, and you can kind of see the trends here. You can see his unfavorability is climbing as fast, if not faster, than his favorability. Now, since this article has come out, he has continued to have unpopular moments within the public eye. So I would imagine that his unfavorability is rising even still. The JD Vance situation is super bad. And I mean, it's on top of the fact that RFK was there in the race. He was doing his thing, and he was put there basically by the Trump campaign to try to steal votes away from previously Biden, but now Kamala Harris. And that just was not working. RFK was stealing more votes from Trump. That just goes to show that there are more people in the Trump camp who are willing to leave and kind of jump ship than there are people in the Biden camp, Kamala camp, who are willing to jump ship to the RFK camp. Now, that could just be because RFK's policy positions are actually pretty weird. It's like a weird mix of things. And if you do that with people on the left, there's a little more, I want to say, position purity on the left, where if you look at the average left-leaning or progressive individual, I feel like their policy positions are a little more clear and pretty homogenous in terms of being generally left-leaning on most issues, if not all issues. But you get some weird stuff going on with independents, where a lot of independents have left-leaning social views or certain things, but they're just conservative economically, or they have weird racist views, or they have a weird mix of conservative and liberal ideology. A lot of those people tend to get kind of pushed out of the left or the progressive side of things because, we want people who have good positions in general and not just some okay positions and a bunch of really bad positions. And that means that a lot of those people end up voting independent, or they end up voting on the right, or just whatever. But I think that a lot of those people are not very comfortable voting for Trump. And so there's a big shakeup with the independent. But anyway, RFK was stealing more votes from Trump than Kamala, which was not the plan. So RFK decided to drop out and endorse Trump at this late date, which actually he's not even able to get off certain ballots and certain swing states. I'm hearing that he's going to be stuck on the ballot, which is hilarious because RFK still might be a spoiler candidate for Trump more than Kamala, even after he drops out of the election, supposedly, and he endorses Trump. So that's just like a collection of stuff that I've noticed, some things I wanted to mention because I feel like it paints a picture. And to me, that picture is pretty clear. Things are not looking good for the Trump campaign, and things are looking really good for the Kamala campaign. But here's the catch. Here's the thing. Even if Kamala cements her lead, even if she's like the likely person to win, I think that Trump is going to have some foul play, some plans behind the scenes to try to win the election without winning the election. So this is an article from the Rolling Stone that I've seen talked about quite a bit. These swing state election officials are pro-Trump election deniers. Nearly 70 pro-Trump conspiracists are election officials in key battleground counties, and they are poised to make a giant mess on election day. So I'm going to go ahead and read from some of this. When election night comes in November, it will be up to thousands of local election officials to certify election results in their counties. Among those election officials are scores of Donald Trump supporters who believe his lies and conspiracies about stolen elections, and will be in prime position to act on those beliefs to try to aid his campaign in November. In the swing states of Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, Rolling Stone and American Doom identified nearly 70 pro-Trump election conspiracists currently working as county election officials who have questioned the validity of elections or delayed or refused to certify results. At least 20 of these county election officials have refused or delayed certification in recent years. So certification of election results is what legal experts consider a ministerial task and one required by state and local law. But as Trump's lies about the 2020 election have taken hold, Republicans nationwide have decided that certification provides them an opportunity to hear fraud allegations and refuse to officially count their local vote. Republicans have refused to certify election results at least 25 times since Trump has lost the 2020 election. Here's a quote from an election lawyer, Mark Elias. "I think we are going to see mass refusals to certify the election. Everything we are seeing about this election is that the other side is more organized, more ruthless, and more prepared." While refusals and delays of certification have not held up in court, in Georgia and Arizona, pro-Trump local election officials are seeking to make certification discretionary, lawsuits that are currently being decided by state judges in order to give his campaign another method to challenge election results in November. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I want to be clear, I do not have a strong base in legal knowledge, so, I'm not going to give much opinion on the legal side of things there, but it does say that, certification is required by state and local law. So that is something that, we need to keep in mind, is that refusing to certify might not be legal, because it's basically a ministerial job. It's like checking a box of something that's already done. So the votes have already been cast, they've already been counted. You just need to check the box, really. Like, that's literally the task, is like check the box, basically. But these election deniers are fighting to make that discretionary and to essentially make it a process where, fraud allegations can come in and the results can be challenged at that moment. Another important thing of note is that these are all in very key states. Trump has been very diligent about this. Kind of the reason that this has happened in the first place is because of 2020. The root of it are these 2020 election lies where Trump lost, and then he couldn't accept it. He just couldn't accept it. And he said, no, I must have won. I must have won. He just couldn't believe that he had actually lost the election. And so because of that, he created all these lies, all of these fraud allegations that are false and proven false by courts, rejected by courts, over 60 court cases. I mean, there's so many instances of him being shot down with his fraud allegations. Like, it's clearly not true. There was clearly not enough fraud, if any fraud, that would have changed the results of the election during 2020. It just didn't happen. But that did not stop Trump from believing that it happened or trying to convince us that it happened. And he convinced a lot of people that the fraud did happen, that the election was stolen. Those people attacked election officials. They went after poll workers, they went after election officials, and they ruthlessly attacked them. And it's kind of like those situations where you have people show up to school boards and they attack the school board officials, except this time they took their jobs. They literally pushed people out of the job because they made it so horrible to be an election official that these non-election denying individuals, they just want to know part of it anymore. There are instances of, we have that popular example of the mother and the daughter who were election officials, and they passed a USB drive over, sorry, it wasn't a USB drive. it was like a piece of gum or something. And like, I don't even care if it was a USB drive. Like, who cares? Like, what does that even mean? Like, this doesn't even mean, okay. But anyway, they passed like a piece of gum back and forth or something, and it was caught on camera. And like Trump commented on it and made these workers' lives hell. Like, literally, these people went from just random election of like not election officials, but poll workers. They went from random poll workers just doing their job to help democracy and to try to, make sure that elections happen in this country. They went from just being, just local people to being on a national stage and having tons of people think that they're like these criminals trying to steal an election. So of course, in situations like that, people leave the field. Like they stop working in public service because at that point, the more harm is coming to them than, they can stand. And unfortunately, that leaves a void of power that these people can fill, these election denialists can fill. So all we can hope really is that, the courts hold and that the legal system holds, and that these attempts to disrupt the election that will certainly happen if he loses, like, we just have to hope that our system holds, that it's these attacks aren't strong enough to topple our election system. I mean, you have to think that it might be enough for him, at least temporarily, to just throw things into chaos. If he can just force there to be some confusion or like a delay in the process, then that works in his favor, even if he's already lost the election, because that gives him a period of time, a window where he can take like some sort of unprecedented action or even try to take it to the Supreme Court. And with the current court's composition and how they've been ruling lately, I would not put it past them to just like hand an election to Trump that he didn't win. But yeah, that's all the information I have for you today. I just sort of wanted to talk about this. I wanted to paint a picture that I'm seeing. Like, this is the picture that I'm seeing. This information, JD Vance is really unpopular. Trump is flailing. Kamala is surging. There's all this stuff happening. And if you kind of look at it from a broad point of view, I feel like there's a direction that this is moving, which is really positive, especially for people who are really concerned about the direction of this election. Like, I've talked about this before, but this is a really important election. This could decide the fate of the world in a lot of ways because of the climate crisis. The right wing is clearly posed to do nothing about the impending doom that is we're staring in the face, climate catastrophe. They're just willing to walk right into it. And I think the left wing is more willing to do literally something about it. I'm not saying that the left wing is perfect. There are still lobbyist issues and things like that are hindering us and preventing us from getting climate action really done right now, rather than like, sort of over the period of like 10 years, which might not be enough. Regardless, I'm just like going on a tangent. There are a lot of reasons why we should be concerned about this election. We should be concerned about, who wins this election, because it's going to be a pivot point for our country. But in my opinion, the way things are looking, we're pivoting away from Trump and we're going to be pivoting towards a new future, new way forward, as Kamala Harris likes to say. And yeah, I'm excited about that. When the time comes, of course, I will probably be making videos discussing the Republican Party and what's going to be the Republican Party after Trump. I mean, that's really something to think about. He has cemented himself as this like dear leader in the Republican Party. Like, he is the axis of the arms of power in the Republican Party. I mean, like, he's got, people in the RNC. He's got people all over the place that are incredibly loyal to him. So if that Trump era comes to an end, are we just going to see these people abandon him? Or like, who's going to be the new de facto leader of the Republican Party? I mean, it kind of seems like they can't really live without this, or like get by in its current state without some kind of dictatorial leader, someone who's like incredibly strong, iron hand, iron fist, or whatever, with the Republican Party, like Donald Trump is right now. If he loses the election, there's going to be a massive power vacuum, and we're going to see the Republican Party go through some pretty crazy changes. I mean, we might see the entire power structure change and reform, or we could just see someone try to be the new Trump and take over where Trump was. But yeah, I think it would be really stupid of me to try to predict what will happen, in that situation, because that is something that we will deal with in the future, and we have no idea what will happen in the future. I think trying to make predictions about things like that, it's just pointless, because things, as we have seen, can change in a week, in a month, in ways that you'd never expect. But yeah, that's the show. That's all I have for you today. I appreciate you so much if you watch. Thank you. Thank you. We are growing the channel slowly but surely. Right now, we're trying to push towards our first 100 subscribers. So if you want to be a part of that, I would really appreciate having your support. And if you watch my shows and you like my content, make sure to leave a like on the video, leave a comment. That will help me out with the algorithm a lot. And if you want to hit that bell button, that also will apparently help me out too. But yeah, that's going to wrap things up. I will be back on Saturday with another show. I appreciate you all very much. I do have a Discord. I want to mention that. I have a Discord. It's in my link tree. You're more than welcome to join that. There's not really much going on there right now, but hopefully if my channel picks up, we'll get a little more traffic in there and start building a friendly community. Thank you all so much. I'll be back Saturday. Until then, do me one little tiny little bitty favor, drink some water.